Well, this year, Nigerians have felt the impact of younger people voting. Well, youth in diaspora also added their voices and finances to influence Nigeria's 2023 general elections. Well, tonight, our attention is on the trend and wave of Nigerians who are leaving the country, a term now popularly called Japa. Babajide Oguso, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst, is here to share the facts about Nigeria's immigration challenges and opportunities. It's great to have you, Babajide, again on the News at 10.
Good evening, Ayo.
All right, so we're talking about emigration out of the country, the Japa syndrome. Tell me, how have Nigerians emigrated? What are the facts, even as we speak? Let's start with that.
Yeah, so we'll have to put numbers to it. But before we put the numbers, I'd like to start from a slightly different perspective. And that's because it's now 12.5 years, exactly on this day, Pope John Paul II passed away. Ayo, today, 200 Nigerians passed, but they didn't pass away. They passed through the Murtala Mohammed and Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. They passed through our airports. And that's because if we look at the facts from the United Nations Department of Economics and Social Welfare, their evidence shows that on an average in Nigeria, 200 Nigerians japa. Let's take a look at the fact, and let's look at how it all has evolved in the last 3 decades. You see, in 1990, the evidence we have from the United Nations states that there were 446,000 Nigerian immigrants spread outside the country. In 1995, that had moved to 524,000. In other words, within 1990 and 1995, on an average, 43 Nigerians were leaving the country per day. Per day. 43 Nigerians were leaving every day between 1990 and 1995. Let's look at what has happened between 2000 and 2005. In 2000, we had 610,000 Nigerians living outside the country. They are taking a one-way ticket outside Nigeria with no plans to come back soon. By 2005, we had 817,000 Nigerians outside the country. In simple terms, within that 5-year period between 2000 and 2005, on an average, 114 Nigerians were leaving every day. However, look at the most recent trend. In 2015, we had 1.3 million Nigerians outside this country. By 2020, that had moved to 1.6 million Nigerians outside the country. In simple terms, Ayo,
even though 2020 was the year of a pandemic.
Exactly. Within 2015 and 2020, the facts in front of you shows that on an average, within that 5-year period, every day, on an average, 200 Nigerians are on a one-way ticket in search of a better life. No plans to come back home soon. I'd like to explain why this number, 1.6 million, is important. You see,
I'll probably also have to ask which country or which other countries that Nigerians are, of course, migrating to, and why are they doing that anyway? But go on.
Okay, so the first is 1.6 million Nigerians. What does it mean? You know, the National Stadium in Lagos, 45,000 seating capacity. It simply means if we were to seat all Nigerians that were outside this country in search of a better life, we'll need to build a stadium in every of the 36 states in Nigeria for us to have a seat for all Nigerians who have left. 1.6 million Nigerians is the equivalent of the population of Equatorial Guinea. In other words, Africa has lost a country. Now let's go into the fact of where do Nigerians go to? Where are majority of this 1.6 million Nigerians? And the evidence from the United Nations Department of Economics and Social Welfare, data that has been shared with me, shows that number one place, United States. We have 310,000 Nigerians living in the United States, and they are not tourists. They are Nigerians living there with no immediate plans to come back. The United Kingdom, 210,000 Nigerians living in the United Kingdom with no plans to immediately come back. Italy, 80,000 Nigerians living in Italy, and we see the growing trend of Canada. The evidence we have today shows that there are approximately 50,000 Nigerians living in Canada, the equivalent of the National Stadium in Lagos. That is the challenge we have today. Yes, we see some Nigerians still moving within Africa, but majority of Nigerians are going to high-income countries, the United States, the United Kingdom, Italy, and we see that wave of Canada. 50,000 Nigerians now living in Canada without any immediate plans to come back.
So who are the categories of people who are actually leaving Nigeria and migrating to these countries that you've talked about?
Again, there are different ways to look at it. What we see is when people leave, they're not just living with their bodies, they're living with ideas. Women, men, children are living with innovation. They're living with their talents. And if we take a look at where exactly, if you look at where, we've taken a look at where they are living to, but if you also take a look at who is coming into Nigeria, it allows you to understand that the high-income countries, the foreigners, are really not coming into Nigeria. Nigeria is only attracting its neighbors. And so majority of those that are coming into Nigeria are our neighbors, Benin, Ghana, Mali, Togo, Niger, Chad. So among the top 10 countries that are coming into Nigeria, all are within West Africa and our neighbors. In summary terms, Nigeria is not attractive enough for a lot of people who are looking for a good standard of living.
Wow, interesting. So what is the situation now with other migrants? I mean, when we talk about the African context, like what you pointed out here.
So we can look at the situation in Africa generally. The United Nations has made it clear that there are 40 million migrants in Africa, African people who are looking for other places where they will have a better standard of life. But the evidence also shows that out of these 40 million African migrants, half of them still stay in Africa. So you have a situation where people are leaving one African country to another African country. So in all 40 million African migrants, but half of these migrants still stay in Africa. Let's take a look at which other continents the other half of African migrants go to. And if we take a look at that, here are the facts. We see that in just 2 decades ago, we had 12.7 million African migrants only within Africa. Now we have 20 million out of the 40 million African migrants. But we have 11 million Africans who are searching for a better life in Europe. That is the #1 destination they go to once they're able to find themselves outside Africa. Outside Europe, we have 4.7 million Africans who are searching for a better life in Asia. And then we have an additional 3.2 million Africans who are in Northern America, especially the United States of America. So in all, 40 million African migrants, 20 million within Africa, 11 million in Europe, 4.7 in Asia, and an additional 3.2 million in Northern America. But the fact still shows that there are 1.6 million Nigerians living outside the country, those that have jackpot. Those are the numbers. We've had that discussion.
And those 1.6 million who don't have any intention of coming back anytime soon.
1.6 million who don't have the intention. And so tonight we are putting numbers to the term jackpot. 1.6 million. How many people live on an average every day? 200 million Nigerians like you and I with a lot of talent, with a lot of ideas. They live with their children and they walk through the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport and the Murtala Mohammed Airport in search of a better life. In the final analysis, Nigeria needs to find a way to retain its talent and to attract others within Africa who have talent to reside in Nigeria. And the only way to do that is to make sure the environment supports productivity and generates income for those that want to come and reside in Nigeria. You know, Ayo, that term,
we really have to end it there.
But
I'm sure the word has gone out to the
that term Japa, if you just take that A and you put it behind, it moves from Japa to something else, and I'll tell you what it means later.
We'll leave that at that. Thank you so much, Babajide Ogunsanya, Channels.
I hope you don't Japa, I hope you don't.
I'll reserve my comments for that one. But of course, we love Nigeria.
Yes.
Anyway.